We're live. Welcome back, everybody, to another Fast Track Feedback Fridays with a very special guest, Mike Ingram. Um, I guess without further ado, Mike, do you want to kind of give a brief introduction as to as
Dynamite
to who you are?
opening is flawless.
We're here. There's nothing else to say. I could give a brief introduction for those who are new to the stream. We've been doing this every week. It is a live stream every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, where we give feedback on up and coming artists' music. So if you're an artist and you're listening to this, you can submit tracks to us, whether they're in progress, you're working on them, or they've been released. And our goal is to give you feedback that can help you make the best tracks possible and to really take off as an artist. So yeah, and of course, us Fast Track, we are a startup based out of Champaign, out of Urbana-Champaign, and we're building a collaboration platform to help you create better projects. So building that right now, and at this point, we're doing the feedback stream. My co-founder Chris is not here today; he's in California, out having fun. But again, we've got a very, very special guest that more than makes up for it. Mike Ingram. So Mike, do you want to do your intro now?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do this thing that I didn't know that I had to do. Uh, my intro. I don't. What the hell am I supposed to say?
I mean, who are you? What's your background in music? What are you doing now? That kind of stuff.
All right. Yeah, I've been a quote unquote professional musician for basically my entire adult life. When I was in school here in Champaign, I started going to um, the Canopy Club open mic night as like a. I think I managed to get in there once when I was 17, but I started going when I was 18, and that was right around the time that I started learning to play the guitar. I was a drummer before then, so I like marched in drum line and played jazz drums and in a bunch of bad garage bands in high school. So yeah, so after that, I don't know. I started playing around here and built kind of a living of playing and also booking. I started booking tours for other bands. I started booking tours for myself. Got to see a lot of the country that way. Um, Helped a lot of venues at the onset. I was mostly just booking a Cowboy Monkey, but then my friend Seth and I started Pygmalion Music Festival together. And then from there, just worked multiple places and booked a lot of shows and had my own thing for a while and ended up at Canopy Club a while back. But through the thread through all of that has been since Cowboy Monkey opened in 2003 when I was a wee one. I've been hosting open mic night in this town since then. It started there, and then we moved it to Canopy at one point. But that was kind of where I learned how to do things and how I kind of met a lot of people. And I always thought it was important to have one of those going, have one of those where people could come and learn how to be on stage, meet other people, collaborate. I've watched a lot of bands form. I've watched a lot of people, move to town and build a following just by doing those things. And it's nice because I would always have other opportunities that if people were kind of, putting something cool together, I could say, hey, like you can come play this. Let's put you on this showcase. Let's let you headline a night or whatever. So I don't know. I've just been pretty much always my entire life as an adult has been immersed in booking or playing shows.
Cool. And for those who are or are not from Urbana-Champaign, Canopy Club is like one of the sort of primary venues of the area that, all sorts of artists come through all the time. It's a really cool place. And Pygmalion is the kind of the biggest music festival in Urbana-Champaign that happens every year in September, right? Right.
Yeah, it's usually September, and then we do through the Canopy side of things. We do Summer Camp Music Festival in the spring, so usually I run a stage there too.
Right.
Um,
And summer camp is happening. It's going to have an event this August, right?
August. Yep. The weekend before Labor Day.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so throughout this year, I mean, I know you talked about running the open mics. You guys were still doing virtual ones this year during COVID, right?
Yeah, when shutdowns started, I decided, I mean, that I really wanted to find a way for people to stay connected for what we thought was, maybe going to be a couple of months or something. So I kind of figured out Zoom really quickly and figured out how to let people come in. And I don't know, everybody at that point, every musician was doing like Facebook Live or Instagram or things like that. And those are great. They allow you access to people, but you couldn't really, you'd see like comments rolling by if you were lucky. You didn't get to see other people's faces and stuff. So we kind of figured out that Zoom was a better option. And it also has some sound tweaks that you can do that actually makes it pretty great. And you can stream it out to platforms.
Right.
So yeah, we started doing that. And honestly, it turned into a thing. Like it was insanely popular where we would go for 4 hours, 5 hours on every like Monday. And we'd have people that used to live here. A lot of people go to U of I and they move away. Well, they would see that we were doing this through the Canopy page. They might still follow, and they would come. We'd have people from LA, we had people from overseas, we had just people that were waking up at random times to do the open mic, which was cool. And again, it allows you could see everybody's faces when you were playing, and you could see them singing along or how they responded to things, and it was the only Zoom that I was doing regularly as somebody who's an elected official and has to go to a lot of board meetings. It was the only Zoom that I did every week that actually didn't make me feel terrible. So
right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, we, for the punchline, we kind of debated which platforms to use. And it's such an underdeveloped area of, virtual events. There's not really any platforms that are actually built for it. Those are all, like Zoom is really made for video conferencing. Facebook Live is made for sort of one-to-many video streams. So we ended up doing like a combination of Facebook Live to sort of catch the widest net of like event attendees, because you can do the RSVPs, obviously. Whereas Zoom is kind of its own world, it's disconnected from other stuff. And so we used Facebook to do that main part on the stream, and then have the or Facebook and then Zoom also to have more interaction, which was nice.
Yeah, I had a really fun time watching, and I would kind of dip into the different platforms that y'all were doing just to see what the experience was like in different spots. And I thought you made really, really good choices with that stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun. It took a lot of unexpected work. It's always like you never expect how things will go wrong in that domain. I mean, it's always like that in events or anything that you're trying to do generally. But those platforms can, there's always unexpected things. You need to test everything, twice over. So
I will happily say that only one time on the Facebook on the virtual open mics did we actually have a penis on the screen. I had to learn very quickly how to stop that from happening. But
right.
Virtual open mic night 1, of course, I didn't have screen sharing turned off. Nobody could like unmute themselves because I wanted to make sure that nobody could like overtalk somebody. But
Yeah.
Screen sharing, it just was a box I hadn't clicked, and then
Yep.
We're streaming to however many thousand people on the Canopy Club page, and then just boom, penis right there. So,
right. Yeah, it's just there's just so many settings, and like even when we would do like regular Zoom meetings with the RSO, I would have the opposite problem where like people would have to share their screens to show like a document to work on, and my meetings automatically would have it so that people can't do that. Like, and I didn't even do that purposefully. It was just like that. So it's still sort of an area that I think there's a lot of room for improvement, especially if stuff's going to continue down this route. But that's something that I sort of wanted to also see what your thoughts or opinion are on. Where is music going to go after the pandemic? What do you think things might look like, time wise, or are venues that of going to start opening up? I know it sounds like Canopy might be, but the plans are still kind of in the works. Virtual music, I don't know. What do you think?
I think in some ways, honestly, the pandemic might have given us a little bit of a reset on some of the live stuff. I mean, if you would have asked me literally a year and a half ago in the winter of 2019 where I thought music was going, I couldn't have even answered you then, because honestly, it's been a very, very frustrating time for people who have been booking and playing music for a while, because everything has been on this like slow downturn of like people's interest in going to see live shows. It's been really, really hard for venues and for bands to actually like get people to come out. And you know, there's multiple factors that play into that. You know, some of them being that just everybody has like that's you know under the age of 30 now has grown up with music in their hands at all times, and there was you know there's never been like a you know a need to go out and discover something new at a show. Like you've been able to discover anything new that you ever wanted. And that's part of it, I think. And you know, just this like the scene or the you know what people are interested in doing or whatever. That's kind of plagued us for a little while. Um, and you know, there were you know, so far for all of the things that I hate about it, at least was smart enough to understand that if they made it like a, you know, an app, they made it social, that they could actually get people interested in it and get them to pay for it, which was, you know, a thing that venues were unable to do. Like, you know, Canopy has had to adapt myriad times over the years that it's been open because kids' music like tastes have changed, of course. So when you used to be able to book metal bands or jam bands, now, you know, the primary focus of what the big money is spent on is like you know electronic music shows,
Right.
DJs who aren't really even DJing, which you know no specific shade because they're still like they got people to show up and they're making money, so it's pretty hard to fault them. Even though
Yeah.
as a person who has put time and effort into learning how to scratch and cut records, you know when I watch somebody just hit play and then turn a knob that isn't even on the channel that's on, you know, pretend like he's doing something. It's a little frustrating, but like people show up. So what am I doing? You know.
Right.
So you know, as Canopy's had to adapt to that, other venues have too. You know, depending on how big your market is, you've watched the dwindling number of people that come out, and really the people that are really interested in coming out and seeing shows a lot of times seem to be getting, you know, it's that same group of people. They're just getting a little bit older. So you know, finding ways to actually tap into you know, the college crowd and the early to mid 20s crowd has been difficult. So one thing I think that the pandemic has actually given us in a weird way is everybody is just they just want to go do things now,
Right.
and some of the things that they're going to end up doing are going to be I think music related. Venues that are opening right now, you know, Rose Bowl in town, you know, Nola's, you know, places are doing a lot of outdoor stuff because they are hedging their bets on what people are comfortable to do and stuff like that. And I think that's smart. But you know, as things start to continue to open up, you know, I think the few venues that are left, unfortunately, we're down to very few here in Champaign,
Right.
and that's the case. You know, Chicago lost several venues, but they had a lot more to start with.
Yeah.
For here in town, I'm very hopeful that people are, you know, feeling the need to go out and connect with people or hear music or whatever, or just do something different. I'm hopeful that that will kind of spurn a little bit, not spurn. Hopefully that will kind of force a resurgence in attendance.
Right. Right.
But I
Huh.
do
Yeah.
think virtual is still going to be a thing. I think we've realized that a lot of people would like to do this on a more regular basis. So
Yeah. I mean, I've thought about that a little bit and tried to figure out like, you know, what that's like. I mean, even like when we did an event, you know, back in December or whatever, like kind of in the middle of the pandemic, uh, we had a lot of people that like showed up to that with not a ton of advertising. And then like recently we did an even bigger event where we had like Beach Bunny and Open Mike Eagle and all these big acts. Um, and our attendance was a little bit better than the other one, but it did feel a little bit like there were some people who maybe were kind of like done with the virtual thing at that point because people are vaccinated and things are starting to open up and maybe like there's you know it's the balance of are people gonna go to a virtual event on Saturday night or are they gonna go to an in-person one. And I almost wonder if you know if you still have virtual events at that point, will the audiences potentially be split between like a lot of people will be at in-person venues and some people might be at virtual events. I think it'll be interesting to see how that works. And maybe it's even like during the winter in colder places when it doesn't people don't want to go out as much, then it makes more sense to do more virtual events or something. I don't know.
yeah, it's going to be a really delicate balance. Obviously, like you know, we're even trying with open mic being in real in person now at Nola's. You know, we're still trying to find a way to bring in people who you know are out of town that have been attending open mic night because we built this. We met some people who are incredible who are now going to be coming through town and playing shows, but they don't live here, so they can't come out to open mic night on a Monday. So
Right.
how do you let them attend, but also if the people are in town, you just as a matter of the business surviving, need them to come to the show. So like it's this weird balance of like how do you do that, and what if somebody has a legitimate excuse that they can't come across town, like
Right.
how do you filter that? But yeah, I
You
think
know,
go ahead.
sorry, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think your kind of point about like winter shows and things like that. That stuff is maybe going to make more sense. I think honestly, off night shows and early evening stuff and stuff that gets archived. I don't know.
Hmm.
I've done two of the writers series, which is like a writers in the round thing that I've been doing with some of the most incredible songwriters that I know. And the idea was, it was a Zoom panel, but it would be four people and going one song by each person in a round, like a
Cool.
real writers in the round. And it's been incredible, and the feedback has been great. And I would like to keep doing that, and I would like to keep doing that with people that I can bring in from far away.
Right.
I don't. It shouldn't just be anchored here. So like I want to keep doing those, and we'll probably move to like a Sunday, I guess. Probably.
Right.
Sorry, but I cut you off.
It just sort of hit me. I would imagine it seems like it makes sense for there to be hybrid events or more hybrid events where there's obviously some infrastructure to deal with there. I mean, there's infrastructure with virtual events in a way too. Um, just having like a camera, like a good camera setup at the actual venue, and then streaming that out for people who want to watch virtually. And also having it the other way with like, what if somebody wants to perform but they're remote? Then you maybe a projector screen or something that's like on the side of the stage, or even just monitors. I mean, big TVs have become pretty inexpensive, so maybe it would be possible for some venues to do. Uh, that seems like it's probably the most likely outcome if there's, for big venues, especially if they're trying to capitalize on both markets, would be a hybrid setup. That'd be
Yeah,
interesting.
it's gonna be really hard to figure out because most venues that we're accustomed to are not making much in terms of the ticket sales. A lot of that's
Right.
going to the act and to expenses. So where they need to make their money is mostly, unfortunately, stuck on either if they're a food place, but most of the time it's on alcohol.
Right.
Um, and that's going to continue to be a hard thing to figure out because they're not going to want to give the ability for anybody to do anything from far away unless there's monetization for it. And like then you're doing like $5 to stream or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think some people will go for that, but it's just figuring out the balance of that is going to be very hard because you think about paywalls for news sites and things like that, and how many people are just against the idea of that, and for whatever reason, that's their choice. It's just going to be really hard to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of makes me think though, if you have a big enough artist that has, a national audience or whatever, like you have Marshmello at Canopy Club, and then, Marshmello has like a virtual tour stop thing or whatever where they can sell tickets to those shows at, a lesser rate than the in-person version. Well, then like now the venue isn't limited to the number of people that can hold or the people that are in the locale. So I could see that potentially being really good, even if it's a lower ticket price, like $5 or whatever, to watch this big artist on virtual. Then you can get people from, as many people as possible. The sky's the limit. So
Yeah,
that could maybe be interesting, but we'll just to see where it goes. Kind of very
yeah.
interesting.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, so speaking of that, like I guess that's one way that maybe monetization could be changing a little bit for artists, and like being able to do these virtual shows and not have to get like a local crowd every time, and be able to just broadcast out to all of your fans on social media and cast a wide net. Maybe that's one way that could be changing a little bit in terms of how artists can like make money, because obviously it's hard for venues and it's also hard for artists. um, do you have any other thoughts on like, are there any specific interesting monetization strategies for artists that you've seen in the past few years that have been enabled by technology or that have been changing in any way, or just any thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, just a reminder to literally everybody that's watching that like the Spotify premium that you're paying for is not going to anybody that you actually like to listen to. I mean,
Yep.
like they're lucky if they get a check that's in pennies.
Yeah. It's like
Um,
0.0034 cents per stream or something like that.
I mean, it's garbage. It's insane. The way that we pay people for their art
Yep.
has morphed into this thing where they're lucky if they can, buy a cup of coffee with thousands and thousands of people listening to their music. Um,
Right.
so just as a reminder, I mean, like everybody's spread pretty thin. Everybody's making absolute garbage money right now. But if you do have any sort of money kicking around, buying somebody's digital album on Bandcamp or getting a physical copy of something um, is so meaningful to artists. Like,
Yeah.
so just everybody, please keep that in mind. Like,
Yeah.
streaming is great to have the stats, but Jesus, they just want to make some money. Um,
Right. If you buy somebody's, album on Bandcamp for $5 or $10, like you're equating like a couple thousand people on a streaming platform. So that small amount of money to you can make a huge difference for an artist. But sorry,
yeah,
go on.
that used to be the move. Like, I was touring with a 5-song EP that I would sell for, $8 or something like that. And, I could make enough to get to the next place, like that would be like cover gas or whatever. I mean, like, and there are different artists now that I think are doing really great things where they'll do like a small cassette pressing. I'll buy the cassette, even though I could not tell you if I even have a place in the house to play it. Um, just because I want to support. And a lot of times it comes with the download code, but I want to have the physical thing both for like posterity and also to support. Um, you know, People are kind of doing that thing where they're figuring out different ways to have experiences, what Patreon and things like that, all the
Right.
different ways that people are kind of finding to try to get people to give them money. It's so hard as an artist. I'm over my shoulder here is a blank stares hoodie, which is one of our Peoria artists that we wouldn't have known about if not for virtual open mic night. But I was happy to buy the hoodie and buy the record on Bandcamp or whatever.
Right.
Like I make a concerted effort to do that stuff because I know what it's like to not sell any of that stuff, and like what it feels like when somebody actually cares enough to buy your music. Um,
Right.
so I mean, I don't know what artists are going to do from here on. Like we have people that come through the Canopy Club that are, decently drawing touring acts, and they're doing the VIP package ahead of the show, which is just like come and meet Aaron Carter, like, and
Yeah.
somebody's always going to pay for that for some
Right.
reason.
Right.
But like that's the kind of stuff that people are trying to figure out how to do because they cannot make money on music sales and they, are having a hard time making money even touring with the production costs. So,
Right.
um, I think anybody who thinks like there are people that only put their stuff on Spotify or only on streaming services. I want to make sure that artists are putting their stuff on a Bandcamp style platform as well, because there should be a way for people to be able to pay you if they want to buy the music.
Right.
Um, but again, that stuff it's so hard, and I don't know what like I mentioned so far earlier, you could do a so far tour around the country, but you'd make $50 a show, um, while they're making enough money to go public with an IPO. Like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. Yeah. And like
yeah,
Spotify, doing $100 million deal with Joe Rogan, like the whole streaming thing is its own sort of world. Like, um, everybody gives me shit for, so I normally use Apple Music, and all my friends give me shit because Spotify is like cooler, but Apple Music's the only reason why I can like justify it. Partly is just because my whole library is there from like iTunes and stuff and integrates, but also Apple Music's rate, while still horrible, is like twice that of Spotify's, and I just can't understand why like Spotify has one of the lowest rates of any of the platforms, yet they're doing all these crazy deals to like get people to podcast on their platform like that. And I think I don't remember if it was you that was talking about it when we talked like last year, but the current model obviously is like per stream you get a pretty consistent variable rate for every time somebody listens, and it's very low. But if I'm like a subscriber to Spotify, I pay $10 a month, and I only listen to 3 artists every month, then wouldn't it make more sense for like a percentage of what I'm paying to go towards the artists that I listen to or the songs that I listen to? It just seems like that could, especially for smaller artists and local artists, really boost their minimum amount of sales while maintaining or possibly, in some cases, making higher the sales of even bigger artists too. Uh,
yeah,
I think it's just streaming platforms don't want to disclose how much cut they would be taking from that. Their current model kind of obstructs that information. So uh, until somebody does that, streaming is pretty bad. But like you said, I think it makes the most sense to find these opportunities where fewer people can give you more money, because like it's not like 0.0035 cents is anywhere near a barrier for a single listener. So instead, why don't you start a Patreon, or sell some merch, or use Bandcamp, and get that one occasional person out of 10 or 20 or 50 that wants to support you and pay more, and you'll make the same amount as if you had like 10,000 or 100,000 streams on Spotify, which is very hard to do in today's saturated music market. So um, I think that's kind of the the moral of the story from this is like, if you're an artist, you should definitely be looking at the sort of um, the ways you might not be thinking about right now, like not just streaming revenue, not even just show revenue, but selling different experiences and different packages to people that want to support you more. That can be super helpful in monetizing your craft. What do
Yeah,
you guys
and you
agree?
don't have to like, you don't have to press a CD with a CD plant, I watched Mother Nature, who now lives in Chicago, but like those Cleva and Truth, both lived down here at one point, and they were making CDs. In particular, Cleva was making ones for the Golden record, where she was like cutting foil crowns and putting them on top of the CD, like gluing them to the CD and doing all this stuff. And like we would sell crazy amounts of them at Exile on Main, which is a record store in town. We would sell
Right.
crazy amounts of them because it was something that was like, it was different, and you put those on Bandcamp as a sale. People can buy it. You can ship them the physical copy. They can get the MP3s while they wait. I just, being creative. You didn't have to used to be creative, in that way to make people buy something from you, but like it does help. Like,
Right. Yeah. One more thing before we dive into the music that I wanted to ask
mm-hmm.
on this topic. Have you like heard about or looked into the whole NFT model or the whole NFT craze? Because I know some artists have been sort of eyeing that as an opportunity to create these sort of limited run type things where maybe it's similar to selling like 50 of a certain sweatshirt or whatever, and that incentivizes people to either pay more or to buy now. But with NFTs, the idea is like you can create some piece of art and then have it be a one of a kind, or three of a kind or whatever, and then it sort of becomes more valuable, some could call it. But have you heard about that or have any opinions on that?
I don't. I like. I've seen a few reports, just like in terms of like what some people have been making off of it. I'm not sure, honestly. Like, if it works for people, please do it. Like, I'm like, I want so badly for artists to actually make money. That like whatever it takes most of the time is, I'm not gonna be mad at them for. So yeah, I don't have a stable working base of knowledge on it, but sounds good to me. Make money.
Sure. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. It kind of like earlier this year, and I was wondering whether it was just because of the pandemic and like people were looking for something interesting virtually, but kind of blew up a little bit. Then kind of back down a little, kind of a little bit like Clubhouse actually. Apparently, Clubhouse was like popping off in like February, March, and then has kind of been not growing as fast. And I'm curious to see whether that's going to take off as a sort of audio based thing, which is kind of interesting. But only time will tell.
Cool. Are you going to
So
pivot right after we get done talking about how little Spotify pays people? You going to pivot over to the screen that has Spotify open?
yes, so let's go make some artists 0.034 cents. How about that?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so let's get right into it. I think uh let's do, what was the first one we wanted to do? Data waves?
Sure.
That's what
That
it looks
sounds right.
like. Yeah,
I
so
believe
let's
it.
do that. Just copy the link and then I'll say when we can both play it, so we'll be synced up. And it should show up on my screen here. There we go. All right, you got it pulled up?
I have it pulled up.
Sweet. So let's go ahead and play it in 3, 2, one, go. Ooh. Very smooth. Not sure if I've heard this mix before. I've heard the track though. I think that cover art kind of fits this well. It's very spacey. Yep. Kevin King on the saxophone. Nice.
Yeah, yeah, that was. You're right about the cover art. That's a very like that song could be playing.
Did it pause?
No, I was like thinking that I was listening through you. I didn't realize that
It was playing
that
YouTube.
that the ad that was playing was on
Yep.
my end only.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
Yeah, because I clicked through this on like for those of you that use multiple browsers at home, I use Firefox mostly, and it stops all autoplays and ads on YouTube, but Chrome doesn't. So
Ah,
that was disconcerting for me. No, that's a song that like I could hear like if like David Lynch decides to do a fourth season of Twin Peaks, like that would be like could be in the background in the Black Lodge. Like it was,
yeah,
yeah, it was a great track.
definitely. Yeah, I actually, I'm not sure if it's the same recording or not, but when in my music tech days, maybe it was probably late 2019 or something. We recorded the data waves for one of our mixing classes, and I think this was one of the songs that I might have spent like a few hours doing a mix for that class for. So it's definitely I've heard that sax part a lot of times. But this is definitely a different mix. I'm not sure if they re-recorded it or who mixed it, but um, I think it sounds pretty good. Um, and what we kind of do with feedback on the show is just high level impressions first. What you thought of the vibe and the track and the energy, and then we go into details of how's the mixing or the mastering on this, or the arrangement and length of the song, stuff like that. So just high level, I think we kind of talked about. My sort of impressions are uh, it's definitely like I'm trying to think about what the target audience or the target setting is for this kind of track. It's kind of a sort of long form, no vocalist type thing. Uh, you could definitely use this in some sort of low key setting, and it's good that it's that long for that. Contrarily, it's the opposite of like a radio hit where you want it to be super short and catch people's attention. It's kind of a background music type thing or a show type thing where you can just kind of groove. Um, but for that purpose, I like it a lot. I think it's a cool groove and it's catchy. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I don't think that they're like trying to put this like if my like my understanding of their ethos, I don't think that like they're like looking for like radio play with a track
Yeah,
like this. But like on top of the idea of it being like more of a like almost a soundtracky song or like a Twin Peaks vibe, um, there's also like there is a market for this in like the like this they could play this at summer camp, you
yeah,
know, at 3 in the morning. I mean, not that people have to be completely fucked up on drugs, but
inebriated. Yeah,
it would help with this track. I feel like for some people,
true.
for me, I just enjoyed it in general. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think are we already delving into recording stuff?
Yeah, yeah. We can go into details if you have any thoughts.
I don't know why, but I like the all the rim shot sounds on the snare sounded great to me, and I didn't like the open snare sound. I have
Hmm.
no idea why. Probably it might just be a tuning thing or where the microphones were placed. But
Right.
for some reason, if I was like producing that track, I would have been like, we have to do the snare all over again.
Yeah.
Um, but like that's just personal taste. But it's very strange to really like the sound of the rim shots and not of the actual head of the snare. Um,
I might have a
yeah.
little bit of insight into that actually.
Okay.
Again, I don't know if they re-recorded this because I could be wrong, but it sounds slower than the way that we recorded it before. This version is super slow, low key. Honestly, if it were me, I would probably up the tempo by a couple BPM. There are just points when it feels like there's like a pocket for the groove, and I'm sort of wanting it to be in that pocket, but it's a little bit slower even. Maybe that's just a personal preference, or maybe it's because I heard it before slightly faster. That could also be it. Um, but when we were I don't know if this is the same recording, but if it is, we were doing this as part of like a class, and we had a pretty good mic setup, and our professor was helping out with a lot of it. Graham Duncan, I don't know if you know
Yeah.
him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we were recording with Graham in the music building, and I think we had like overheads on the kit, and I think we had two snare mics. Could be that one of the snare mics, was closer positioned in one spot, and the other one was out of phase or something weird. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I sort of feel like with the mix, um, I might be a little bit biased again because I've heard it in a different form before, but I thought there was maybe a little bit too much delay reverb on either the sax parts or some of the backing stuff. My only other mix thing was I wish the bass was a little bit more uh, defined, maybe. Like there were just points where it felt like there was kind of some mud in the bass that's kind of riding under there, and I would have liked to see that cleaned up just a little bit. But that's really the only mix things that I have, and again, not the kind of track that you need to make really short to be like super radio hooky. I think the length is good for the types of settings that it's intended for. But yeah, those are basically my kind of technical thoughts.
Yeah, I mean
Later.
we're nitpicking, which
Yeah,
is
of
like
course.
which is what you're gonna do when the track is really good. Like
Right.
I thought it sounded great. The tempo really didn't bother me at all. Perhaps because I don't remember the like
Yeah.
previous version, but and really like the delay and the verb on it and stuff like that. I mean, like that's kind of like some people's whole vibe, and that didn't like or some songs or albums' whole vibes.
Right.
So that didn't really bother me that much. I felt like I couldn't tell if he was doing the thing that D'Angelo used to ask Questlove to do, which was to learn how to fall onto the snare just slightly behind the beat, because
Yeah.
it felt like that when he was actually hitting the open snare, um,
Hmm.
and I enjoyed the very dub vibe of this delay that was on the snare when it went back to the rim shot.
Yeah.
That made me feel like we were in Jamaica, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, again, this is all the kind of stuff that you start talking about when the track is good enough that you're just like, oh, here's a couple of things that maybe I would tweak.
Right. Of course. Yeah. So again, just for people who are new to here, the whole goal of the stream really is to try to give as much sort of critical feedback, some secondary perspective on your tracks. This can be really small nitpicky things, just so you can make the best thing possible for people to listen to. But I think what we'll probably do then is the ratings. So for those of you who are new, our rating scale is a 4-tier scale. Uh, Level 1 is this needs to be like re-recorded or rewritten, or something major needs to be redone. Level 2 is there's just some production tweaks that need to be done. Minor changes, not re-recording though. Level 3 is this thing is ready to ship out, but we maybe wouldn't personally add it to our playlist just out of preference. And level 4 is like, yeah, we would both add this to playlists. It's ready to go out the gate. And we're actually going to add all of the ones that are 4 level to our FastTrack playlist on Spotify and SoundCloud. So ratings for me, um, it's hard because I definitely like. I mean, I want to add all the data wave stuff to my library regardless, um, which makes it hard because I know them and I love the track and all of their tracks honestly. Um, but for this one, I do feel like there are a couple of minor things that could probably be tweaked. Sometimes we do like decimal ratings where it'll be kind of in between two numbers, and sometimes to like a couple of decimal places too. It gets pretty specific. Uh, but I'm gonna say my gut is saying like a close to 3, like a 2.8 or 2.9. That's also considering the sort of phantom 4 of like I want to add it to my personal library. Um, but I feel like there are a couple of tweaks with mixing or mastering that could sort of take this up to that. Like I would listen to this shit every time I go somewhere music. But what do you think, Mike?
I mean, I'm delving into your rating system, which
Yeah, of
is
course.
different than my rating system. Because like I'm throwing that on playlists now after that,
Yeah, yeah, no, of course.
but but
Me too.
like that, but I like I understand the rating system is it exists for a reason.
Right.
I can get down with the idea of that specific decimal that you just threw out there, because
Sure.
I mean like I do like it's again this is just like if I could mix it I would mix it differently, but like it wouldn't preclude me from listening to it or telling other people like, hey, like
Yeah,
I think this is a good track. So
of course.
I'm going to default to your rating, and that's fine. I don't want to
Fair
go
enough.
down to this. I don't want to go to the second decimal on my own rating.
We've done it before.
So what were you? You were at a 2 point.
Like 2.8, 2.9, something around there.
Okay, 2.9. Okay, I'll go 3.1.
Wow, okay. Cool.
Even three.
Even 3 average. Yes. Um, nice. So, by the way, we're adding all of the tracks that are on streaming services to a big playlist for all of them, for all the submissions. It's just for that sort of top tier tracks playlist. That's the stuff that's like ready to pop off, like ready for the masses. That's the stuff that's going to go on that playlist. It's a little bit more exclusive, but we do the stream every single week. We more than welcome people to refine their tracks or submit other stuff that you've done and worked on and released, and get that chance at that slot in the top tier playlists. So
Let's do
yeah, great
another.
job. Yeah, great job, Data Waves. Always love to hear it. Let's go to the next one. I think that would be let's do I Am Lost 2.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and I forgot to mention the description on this one. The description was Smooth Soul, a tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive Chicago IL. I didn't know that. I knew the name of the song was King Drive, and I sort of thought it was related to Kevin King, the saxophone player, because his last name is King. But I didn't know that it was a tribute to MLK Drive. That's interesting.
Okay, hang on. Sorry.
Yeah, just let me know when you get the link open
Spotify
for that
link.
one.
I gotta go to a whole different browser.
Ah, of course. To sign a waiver that says we will not be paying artists fairly.
I'm literally just gonna send them money.
Yep.
All right. I am ready when you are.
Got it ready? All right. 3, 2, 1, play.
Text me again, remaining friends. Was a mistake that I shouldn't have made. Message on red, blame pretend. Caught in a thread of strung along heartbreaks. Waiting to be
Like that bass.
once I could lie for hours. Suddenly, epiphany. You are not what I
Huh. That was cool. I was wondering what that there's a cool background noise in there.
Yeah, and all the wait, 3 of the 4 tracks on this EP clock in at 1 minute and 59 seconds, and the last one is at 1 minute and 49 seconds.
Wow, that's interesting.
4 songs, 7 minutes 47 seconds. Huh.
Yeah, this is a very short. I'm sure there's got to be some meaning in that, I would think.
Yeah,
I mean,
if they're all the same, I mean, like or close, that's pretty.
or
Cool.
maybe the 747 is like some lucky number or something.
Sure, I can
I
see
used
that.
every once in a while, like when I was bouncing tracks out on my EP, if it was close to a certain number that had some sort of meaning, I would just make it that length because it's like, yeah, I want it to be that length.
Is
That's
there any sort of like freeware production program that will only let you put out like 2 minutes or less songs?
probably.
Which, whatever it is, like if that's the case, whatever that program is, cranked out pretty good sounding tracks.
Yeah. Um, Man, I don't even. There's every once in a while you just listen to one that you're like not expecting, and you're like, I don't even know what to think of this because I'm just thinking about it still. Very interesting track, interesting vibe. Surprisingly short because of the 159 constraint or whatever it is. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was definitely relaxing. I would be tempted to listen to the rest of the other, 6 minutes, 48 seconds,
I will
or
be.
5 minutes, 48 seconds. But yeah, do you have any first impressions on this one?
Yeah, like I may know this person without knowing it, but I don't even know who this is. Like I definitely was taken by it. So I mean, like I thought it was well, well recorded. I think you were right when that bass kind of came in. It was right on like
Yeah.
where you wanted it to be, and at the right moment. Yeah, I voice sounded good. I mean, like production quality was pretty solid.
Yeah, I was kind of debating it a little because at the beginning I was thinking like this sounds compared to the other one sounds really quiet to me. And the intro sort of had me wondering. It was a little bit long. I was wondering like when the rest is going to come in. Uh, and then I thought it sounded to me like the vocals were a little bit quiet, especially compared to the. It sounded like the guitar was kind of overpowering the vocals a little bit. The bass was the part that I thought was really the highlight. Like when that came in, that smooth sort of foundational element, that really helped a lot to make it sound like a clean production. I just like it was interesting because at the beginning I had the impression that this was, you know, needed some work on the production, and then that came in, it kind of made things a lot better. Uh,
Yeah, and I think the way that the recording of that guitar, I mean, it sounded like that was an actual guitar being recorded, and I
yeah,
think maybe it probably it could have been suffering from like mic placement or room or whatever, but it could have also been like purposefully kind of lo-fi sounding. So I mean, like
right.
it gave it kind of a bit of a vibe. So
Right. Yeah, I like that sound and that vibe a lot, the sort of lo-fi thing. It blends in nicely with that sort of background, vinyl scratch noise or whatever it is.
mhm.
Um, I just was, a little bit. I felt like the levels could have been tweaked a little bit with that. Um, and there's a description with this too. Um, just someone who finds solace in music, and finally has the courage to share his with the world. Cool. That's great to hear. I was gonna after I read that, I was thinking like, wow, if this is somebody's first release, that's really good. That's like
Yeah,
really impressive.
yeah, like that bass and that and kind of the production. I mean, like it reminded me of what is it? Alina Baraz.
Sure.
Um, Kind of had like that kind of it felt like that production.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, if that really is the first thing,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my only other comments or observations outside of those sort of really minor mix things are uh, part of me wishes that it was a little bit longer. It just wishes maybe there was another verse or something, but not necessarily short. Nothing wrong with short. Um, the only arrangement thing that I really thought could maybe be benefited from was like that intro sounded almost like a loop that just went on for a little bit too long. And if your song is only 2 minutes, you might benefit from spending a little bit less time on just that same sort of intro loop without any vocals or anything. But again, those are pretty minor elements. Do you have
yeah.
anything else?
And no, and like you saying like there's the number of songs that exist in the world that like are what I consider to be like perfect songs, but like that I would love to hear a little bit more of. I always
Mhm.
wonder like if I heard a little bit more of it, would it not be perfect anymore? And
Mm.
not to put perfection on this particular track, but like when a song's that short and it makes you want it to be longer, I think
Yeah,
sometimes that's part of the smartness of the song.
yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree. Cool.
Rate it.
All right, let's rate it. Let's do it. How do you want to go first on this one?
I don't.
All right, I'll go first on this one, and then maybe the next one you'll go first.
We'll see.
Fair enough. Um, I'm gonna say right around a 3 for this one. I don't know if I would personally add this to my library, but I do feel like it's worthy of being added to playlists and libraries. Like if you want to make a few tweaks, that's great. But I don't think it's necessarily needed for this one. So I would say 3. It's ready to be streamed and listened to. In this form, I don't know if I would add to my personal library or to the FastTrack featured one. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'll concur with the 3. For me, I am adding it to my playlist, and I'm really actually kind of excited to listen to the other 3 tracks.
Yeah, me too.
But I get it. Like it's. I feel like if I'm building the right playlist, this is a really good track for it. Like if I was putting something with like Sir and what is it, R Lummer and some of those kind of like neo soul electronica. Kind of, I think it would be really good fit. So, I mean, that's a compliment in my eyes.
Yeah, definitely. Again, super impressive, especially this is a first release. And I like the aesthetics of it, the way that it sounds, and the whole thing with the tracks being the same length and all that. It's a cool vibe.
Next
would be let's do the Theory Dropouts one.
Okay.
So you know them, I believe. I don't know if I've heard them yet. Let's find out. Let me know when you've got that one pulled up.
I am ready.
All right, let's play it. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, nice to meet you. Please do come in. There's something about
Like those
you.
harmonies.
Oh, where to begin? You dress like your dad. I can't help but laugh. Though when you walked in, I was nothing but glad. I can see it in your face. You like a good time, but I'm quiet and shy. You might have to pry. I'm at a low, but you're 10 out of 10. It's not very often I make a new friend.
Love those stops too. Those are great. I'm on the beach sipping pina coladas.
Hi, good to see you. Please, won't you stay? If not, that's fine. Just stop by and say, hey. You move without flaw. I
That one
can't
sounded like it
help
missed
but
just a little bit.
I like when you smile in the line of your jaw. I can see it in your face. You like a good time, but I'm quiet and shy. You might have to pry. I'm at a low, but you're 10 out of 10. It's not very often I make a new friend.
Yeah, I like the panning at the end. I thought that was
Yeah,
a
that
really
was an interesting
smart
choice.
choice. Um, yeah,
Top level impressions.
top level impressions. Um, Definitely got me bouncy.
Mhm.
I think you were right about the like the beach vibes. I mean, like that's kind of you hear ukulele sometimes, especially with other
Yeah,
instruments, and you kind of have that feeling.
right.
Um, but yeah, like especially after the last couple, like coming in with like a this kind of energy. Um, I think yeah, definitely perked up.
Yeah, I feel like well, obviously I agree with that. I love the energy. Um, Super fun song. I also just the thing that sticks out to me the most is I think the arrangement is pretty close to perfect on this. I feel like there's a lot of really good variants. Like there wasn't, even though it's a over 4 minute song, there was never a point where I was like, this is boring. That's some pro songwriting that right there. That's what you need to do. Keep the listener engaged and interested. All those little dropouts were cool. That was really smart when they came in with the claps after that chorus at the end.
Yep.
Great songwriting. Um,
Yeah, I would agree about the arrangement. I think it's very well structured. The composition is great. The vocals are the shining point of the song. I think all the
mhm.
choices that were made with them in terms of harmony points, and then like dropouts, drop-ins, and then like when it really expanded into multiple takes, that
Yeah,
really I thought was very very well orchestrated. Um,
yeah.
the production is where I would do a million things different.
Right. So I felt the same way. Again, I was gonna say I thought the harmonies were like placed really well and everything, and they were the right harmonies. But the biggest thing that I'm hearing is it's either a mic placement or the mic that was used, or maybe just a lack of production EQing whatever on the vocals. Um, there definitely needs to be some work done on that side, the vocal recording or production side. Uh, I thought when the big wall of harmonies came in towards the end, it sort of multiplies the error, and I could hear it's sort of that it's something in the mid range where you get build up, and it's just like not exactly nasally, but it's kind of boxy. Um, I thought that was a sort of indicator that the vocal chain needs to be tidied up a little bit. Um, and then I wasn't sure how much I felt like that thing at the end made sense with the main vocal on one side and the other on the left side. It might make sense if they were EQ'd a little bit better. I just thought it sounded a little bit awkward to me, and especially because it only came in for like that last line. That being said, if it was a super clean production and mix, it could work, I think. But it was just kind of caught me off guard a little bit. Um, yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was just like that part. I thought was a cool
You like?
extra addition.
Yeah,
Yeah, um, you know the radio mix you would just put them both in the center, but like I thought that was kind of a cool like at home listen. You put on the vinyl record and you're like, oh, like yeah.
yeah, totally.
But I would agree with you on the probably the microphone placement or usage. I still thought like honestly even just the takes the vocals you could do more with in terms of EQ and production. 'Cause they were buried sometimes. I mean, like, and maybe that's the mix. However these were ripped and put up to Spotify too. Sometimes will affect things, but like the bass I thought was a competent bass line, but it was like way over the vocal sometimes.
Right,
And I wanted it to be the more complimentary thing instead of what was kind of like a driving force.
right.
um and I think the ukulele suffered a little bit from the same thing in terms of probably mic placement, because I would imagine that they mic'd that and not plugged it in. But either way, I thought probably some EQing there and some balance would have helped it. um I like I there was something going on with the kick drum pattern that bothered me every pass.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like at first I thought it was just like they were like, oh, we don't have any more time, we just got to do it. And like every drummer ever, myself included, has done the thing where you like, oh, your brain sends the impulse a little bit too
Yeah.
soon and you've like
Yep.
anticipated.
Yep.
And then you try to fix that later, but if you don't have time, or I mean I think they were all about 7 years old when they recorded this. That's an exaggeration, but
Whoa.
I mean, I think they're all like they. I think everybody was in towards the end of high school when this got recorded, if I if
Yeah.
I if I read correctly. So, I mean, like it sounds great when you factor that in, but like there was something going on with that kick pattern that like it happened enough times that it was purposeful, and I couldn't tell if it was like a weird anticipatory thing or whatever. But like, if I'm hearing it and it's bothering me, it might not hit everybody else because again, drummers think about things differently. But I kept trying to figure out what was happening with that.
Right.
And sometimes it's just you're just trying to emulate something that you heard before, or do something cool that maybe doesn't always land. But like, I mean, I can live with it, like because
Yeah.
like everything else kind of was enough. There was a sunshine to that track that I thought was pretty rad.
Yeah, definitely. Again, love the vibe. It does look like it was recorded in either 2018 or 2019. So 2 or 3 years ago. I'd imagine that they've only improved since then.
Yeah,
And I did notice with drums too. There were a couple of points when I think I heard like a missed hi hat hit or something.
yeah,
Just a couple, and like one or maybe one with the ukulele where I could hear a little bit of a strum misfire.
yeah.
And again, that some of that could probably be corrected with just like some production stuff or some miking stuff like with the ukulele part. But yeah, it always makes it so hard to rate these because it's a composite of different factors. So like, I might want to rate like the arrangement and the song vibe like a 4, but there's other parts that might be lower. I think it's a tough rating scale because it's like you can't send the car out of the factory if the steering wheel is missing. So it's like whichever part is not there is kind of the lowest rating kind of determines most of the composite, if not all of it. So my rating for this, just because I think there's some stuff that probably could benefit from either being re-recorded or just some smart production stuff would probably be passable and get it up a level. Um, Somewhere around a 2 probably. And the 2, by the way, just reiterating, is needs some production work, but doesn't necessarily need to be like re-recorded or scrapped or anything like that. That's where I'd be at.
It's good that you keep trying to explain your Simon Cowell-esque ratings. To make
Right.
people feel better.
That was
Yeah,
the
no,
glory days of when they had Simon Cowell on that show. It was the best they ever had it.
yep.
But
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I want to go. I want to like take this into a studio and produce it and put it out. Like either re-record it or even just going back to the stems and doing some tweaking. But I
Right.
think it would be like I think probably from where they were then and where they are now, recording this song and probably some of the others and some new tracks or something like that. That used to be the thing is you would release that like self-released indie, and then if you got picked up by a label or you got a little notoriety, you go back and record the best songs from that
Yeah.
and the newer songs.
Yeah.
Like I want to do that with this record because that song I think the song itself, the structure and everything like that would be a fucking radio hit. Like
Yeah.
on the flip side, I think the production stuff would actually hold it back, not just from people's ears, because I think it's catchy enough that people would, but like I think in terms of people wanting to, add it to play it like to like a station rotation or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, like I don't know if I'm putting it all the way. Your rating system is weird to me, so
I know. It's weird to me too.
so yeah, like 2 makes sense in terms of wanting to re-record it, but like I don't know. I'm gonna call it a 3 so that we have an even 2.5,
Sure.
which is not even. But okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
It is worth noting that if you're in the Champaign area, Theory Dropouts will be playing at the Record Store Day at on Main Street.
Nice. When is that?
So I believe Miles from Theory is playing the one that's next weekend, which is the what is that, the 12th. And then I believe we might actually manage to get the whole band, or at least a good bit of it for the second Record Store Day, which is like the big one, which will be the 7th of July.
Nice. Cool. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
everybody, if you're in Champaign, go out to that stuff. Go go to Exile, support some local business and some local music.
Please.
Buy some records, get yourself a record player. It's fun. I have a whole record collection myself, and I've been there before. It's a different experience than you're getting with Spotify, and also you'd be paying the artists a lot more. So head out there, and even if you just want to stream people's stuff, stream all of these artists, support them, show them some love. All right, shall we do the next one?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do Khalid.
SoundCloud.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, for fuck's sake. All right. Ready when you are.
We got it queued up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's just let it load here. And all right, let's play it. 3, 2, 1, go.
We still too broke, bro. We still too broke to die, yeah. We still too broke to die. Can't pay for my damn casket. Still running in place. Still call out my boss and ask this. Why we counting pennies when we could be counting assets? Yeah. For the people that need never got the resources. What if I got deported by damn police forces? What if I never failed all those damn college courses? Would I be still broke?
Some lines.
Would I be still broke? Filling up your pockets, I pay for my sins. I pay for them within my checks. I can't be having kids yet. I got a soul to feed. Got a soul to feed. Do I eat to compensate for the times I could have been? I hid within my checks and I live within the stints. Do I have the peace of mind to move on forward with my wits? Do I? The cash is so deceitful, leaves you the minute that you don't need to. Still the lavish fool, cause I'm still waiting to meet ya. Too broke to die, yeah. We still too broke, bro.
Too broke to die, that's great.
To die, yeah. We still.
That's a long loop.
Is that gonna be the rest of the track?
Yeah, I was gonna say. It might actually be.
I think it is.
I mean, it's putting me into a little bit of a trance. Just listen to that for like an hour on repeat.
Right?
You go to sleep and you'll still hear it. Like a social experiment.
Yeah.
Let's see how it ends. It just cuts out.
Yep. Well,
wow.
Was there something that accompanied that one? Oh yeah, here we go.
Like a description? Yeah, so hey everyone, I'm an independent. This is Khalid Abdul. I'm an independent artist from Dallas, Texas. I'm part of a bilingual Latin rap group, Chroma, and I'm currently working on some solo music as well. My work is everywhere between alternative hip hop to pop, alternative indie, underground hip hop. I also rap in Spanish as it is my first language. Too Broke to Die is one of my favorite demos recently. It is still a work in progress at the moment. Excited to get feedback. Thank you. Cool. Okay, so this one's in progress right now. I'm guessing there's supposed to be another verse there. That's my best guess. Maybe not.
Something to trail out. Yes.
Yeah, something to trail out. There's definitely enough space there to put another something, some sort of vocal thing, or just anything. That's point number one of feedback for me, is just need something there. The loop being repetitive is okay when you're rapping over it. But then when there's nothing over it, it's like, oh my God, this is just like dragged and repeated for, a minute here. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the only real sticking point I have right there, when factoring in that this is a demo. Is I think it's recorded pretty well. I thought that, his diction and his enunciation popped through fine. I didn't think it was like, sometimes it gets like, especially like, with the wave of like bedroom rappers and things like that, like some of the enunciation has kind of, gone by the wayside. And we get a little bit more of that mumbly stuff. I'm glad to not have that here. I thought it came through. It definitely just, yes, I would be annoyed if I was sitting at home and like that was on the turntable and like whatever it was, 40 probably seconds there at the end on a relatively short track. That was a sizable percentage of the song. But like I understanding that that's sometimes the writing process and everything is just put down what you've got and then add other stuff. I mean, you could put a short feature there, and I think it would be great. Reminds me a little bit, especially the sampling. Reminds me a little bit of Frank Leone, who is formerly of this area, now doing cool stuff in LA. He's got like a track with Femdot recently, and he had
cool.
Vic Mensa was on his EP that he put out while he was still here at U of I.
Wow.
But yeah, it definitely like first of all, Too Broke to Die is great just as a line, like I think that's a great title. And then the bars were solid. I would probably like, this is one of those dudes that I would like if he wanted to book a show like a Canopy, like I always make everybody go through open mic night first, but in particular rappers, because I want to see what they can do on the stage, and that includes whether or not they can do the song without vocals on the track, which is like to me sacrilege. And I've been helping like boost a campaign by a guy from Baton Rouge called Marcel P. Black, who has a no rapping over vocals campaign. It's the thing that I think it's kind of trashy the way that I see it done most of the time. And I like to throw people up there and say, like, even if you're not used to it, get used to it here at open mic night so that we can put you on. So this is a guy that I would like to see if he could do that live. And I mean, it sounds adept enough that wouldn't be a hard thing. But I've also seen some people that just have that as a crutch and they've never not done it. But that was solid.
Khalid, got to come down to Urbana-Champaign or come up from Dallas.
If he was coming through, I would, I'd put him on with a few of the locals that I think are really good. I think that track, has it's got its own statement. I'd definitely review some live footage from somewhere else first to make sure. Right. But yeah, like I'd be down.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. I thought that was well put. This was probably the first one today where it's a work in progress, but I didn't have anything that really stuck out on production wise, like mixing wise. It actually sounded really good to me. Just finishing up that second part there or whatever, and making sure that it's it flows well, and the ending makes sense, and all of that is kind of the next step, I think. But again, bars were great. Love the vibe and the track name. I don't really have a whole lot more than what you already said, Mike, but should we go ahead and give it ratings?
Yeah, you should go ahead.
All right, I'll go ahead. It's so difficult. This rating system really is tough.
It's your system.
I know, it's my system.
Yeah.
It's actually, my co-founder came up with it.
Just throw a number out. Who gives a shit?
78.
Perfect.
I'm going to give this, because it's still got some stuff that needs to be done on it. But I want to add it to my library. That's why it's always hard, because I want to add it, but I know there's some stuff that needs to be
classic conundrum. Classic.
Yeah.
Conundrum. I mean, I think it fits the spirit of your number 2 on there, because it honestly it needs to be it's unfinished. It needs to have something done to it. So for me, I'm probably putting it at like a 2.5 or 2.55 maybe, since we're going to 2 decimal places sometime.
Right.
Because it's hard to explain with your particular rating system how this would be like a 4 to put on on a mix if it was complete.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just sort of being a little bit meta here. It is really tough to work with the sort of composite rating scale, especially if you're not able to articulate always like what the ratings are for the individual categories. So in the future, we might just do like like 3 or 4 categories where we can say like it's a 4 for like the songwriting and arrangement. It's a 2 on the production or whatever, and a 3 on something else, and then the composite of that, is whatever. Just to explain it a little bit better. But I'd have to agree with you pretty much there. Hey, you did rate it first this time. I would say, yeah, like something between a 2 and a 3. I guess like a 2.55 would round it up to a 3, which is like, is radio ready potentially? I guess that's where it gets a little bit confusing.
We don't round up here.
All right. Well, sometimes we do, but I guess in this show we are not going to be doing any rounding.
Not with me.
Disclaimer. Yeah, not with Mike. So I'll give it a 2.49 because if my scale is rounding, then it would round to a 2.
Got it.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to give it.
All right, I'm going to run out of time pretty soon, so let's hit another track.
Yeah, let's do this last one, and then I assume you probably won't have more time after that. If we do, we could throw in Dawn Patrol.
If we get through this one quick, we can do it.
Yeah. All right, so let's do another SoundCloud here. This one would be Dodo. Shino Bazu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
Dodo's latest track with that I don't know how to pronounce. Zood. ZSUD demonstrates his international attitude, navigating a path through Japanese streets showered with bouncing raindrops. That's cool. The track echoes conversations with the voice in one's mind, woven amongst purposeful beats, sounding a circadian rhythm feel, which is complemented by beautiful moments of birds chirping, heightening Shinobazu's cinematic energy. What a description. I can't wait to hear the track now.
This had better be fucking epic after that.
Yeah. All right. Ready to play?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Filter. Like that stuff, all those different sounds, the birds. love that outro. I like that like slowed
Yeah,
down warp thing. It's
yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
I'm
Cool.
gonna give him a pass on the slightly overbearing and seemingly a little pretentious write up. Because I've written some of those before where you're just trying to make it sound like you're just trying to grab somebody's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
anything. Because I
Right.
was like, God, if this just ends up being bad, it's gonna make that much worse. But
Right.
no, like
Right.
that was that was a great track. I can't believe that two things that I listened to today feel like they could belong with the David Lynch production. Like that could be,
Right.
yeah, like that was great. That was a really good track.
Yeah, that was cool. It was definitely a ride, and I think the imagery, it's in the description on SoundCloud too, of the sonic slice of the murky and rainy streets of Japan. It's kind of a cool a cool visual to kind of associate when you're listening to it, of thinking about something.
I just like I want to hate it because of the description, and it was just too good to not like.
Yeah, no, I thought it was cool. That hook was also like catchy. It's
Yeah,
going around still. Um, yeah, that was unlike anything else so far. It's cool.
yeah.
Um, I
I
guess
thought
those are. Or sorry, go ahead.
no, I thought like production level was great. I thought the mixing was solid. The balance on the different layers all seemed really well done. Like I don't really have a lot of notes.
Yeah, I sort of. I don't know if I need to just try it on a different system or something than these headphones, but throughout I was sort of trying to figure out what the bass was doing.
Okay,
It was kind of doing that like some sort of walk thing, but there were times when it felt a little bit ambiguous or maybe even a little bit like unintentional or something. It was kind of just walking around and it didn't always feel like it was aligning well with the other stuff that was happening. My general sort of production perspective, um, there are parts when I feel like it all came together really well and it was a good sort of cacophony of different parts. And there were other times when I was like, what is that like synth part doing there? Like there would be just like parts that are kind of floating around and maybe didn't quite match up with the, harmonic content of everything else or the bass line or whatever. Um, and I know what it's trying to go for, like the sort of that vibe of being on a street and things are busy and there's like all this stuff happening. But if it steps on other parts too much, it can become a little bit confusing for the listener. I feel like, or a little bit ambiguous. So that's one thing, and it could even just be that like you've got multiple synth parts that are stepping on each other in the spectrum, and just like doing some clever EQ stuff or some panning, spatial stuff. Um, my ears were a little bit confused for some of it. Again, I'd have to listen on a different system and just see if that was.
yeah, like that wasn't really like a problem for me. I definitely like I the bass stood out to me a couple different times, like the lowest synth line. Had that kind of, I mean, it felt like that kind of score vibe that everybody has been kind of jumping on. I mean, like that has that kind of 80s production vibe of like like the Atomic Blonde soundtrack, or even like Stranger Things, where like it has a very 80s influence, but has a 2021 sheen on it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't find there to be too much too much muddling on the spectrum for my own taste, but go on.
sure. Yeah, so again, that could be either preference or it could be specific system. Either way, it's always on the production side, always a good idea to test on multiple different systems, so what it might sound like to different people, different places. Um, but yeah, other than that, I mean, my only other small gripe was I felt like the last, I don't know if you call it a chorus or a hook, but the part that was sort of repeating. Um, Felt a little bit long to me. It was like the whole second half of the track was basically that repeating part. Um, I don't know if it would help, like, from that other, from the Theory Dropout song, like that's the opposite, where there's all these different like variances and different parts and like dropouts and just, dynamic changes. I think it'd be really cool to see that somewhere in the second half of this. I could see like just the sort of drum part staying in and some of the vocals or synths or whatever, and then going back. But that's just sort of again, could be personal preference. But that's all that I had in terms of notes. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Mike?
No, I think that that puts it pretty well.
So ratings again. Oh man, I think for this one,
I'm gonna annoy you because I'm going with 4. I'm doing it.
wow.
I know.
Okay.
See that because I guess the spectral stuff that you're talking about didn't really get to me,
Sure.
and I felt like the mix and the production were on point in a way that not that everything else wasn't, but it just like for me I was like maybe, and it could sometimes it's just the surprising element of it too, I think.
Yeah.
But for me, like that'd be a thing that I'd be you know, I guess for me, the weird thing about saying like let's put it on like the banger playlist is that I build playlists very like meticulously and specifically. So like what it would go on would be, you know, like I would have to really curate a playlist for it.
Right. Right.
But like yeah, okay, fine, 3.7. There you go.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I would say the sort of minor things aside, like again, for me, it could change if I just listen on different speakers or something, and maybe it's like, oh, that was just sort of an anomaly or whatever. Um, but I would say this could definitely be ready to, for people to stream and stuff, sort of quote unquote radio ready. So I'm going to say it's a 3 for me.
Okay.
Which is a good rating. We haven't had a lot that are up there yet. It's a harsh rating scale. Right,
Unforgiving.
Yeah. So do we want to do? I don't know if we have time or not.
I have officially started. I have officially started the Zoom for the event that I have to start in 3 minutes. So,
all right. So,
but I would like the sad part about that is that I would have liked to have gotten to the Dawn Patrol song just to talk about it.
Yeah.
But assuming like it was nice, one of the things I wanted to do was like do the tracks of people that I hadn't heard about or from as much. But I would imagine that some of those folks that submitted songs were so that I could like so we could listen to them and talk about them. Right. So, if you have cause to give a call again, I would be happy to join again. Or I think it would just be cool if their songs get reviewed by other people.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing it every Friday, so we'll let you know about that. I think we got through most of the ones that were outside of Champagne submissions, one that you might not have heard, but we do have quite a few from a lot of people from the open mic, from the Canopy Club open mic submitted, which we'll be doing next week. So tune in again next week. Everybody who's watching, make sure you follow us on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram. All the links are there. And submit music. We want to hear your guys' stuff, what you're working on. You can resubmit things if we give you feedback, then you work on them. Always love to do that, and for another chance to get on that top tier playlist. Find us on Spotify. All of that's on our social media. And big, huge thanks to Mike. Thank you so much for being actually our first guest on the stream. Just started up a few weeks ago, and we're going to be doing it all summer. So again, thank you so much for coming on, for your insights and perspective on all things music, and hope that we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, I love that. And for anybody out there, if you got any stuff, you're welcome to send it to me, especially if you're wanting to play gigs in and around Champaign. I would be happy to discuss that with you.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody follow Mike on Instagram as well. That is on screen. Hey, Mike Ingram. Cool. So again, thanks so much, and we'll see all of you next time.